What's going on, my fellow Kino Lords? So tonight I'm going to be reviewing a handful of films that I was able to catch at the Atlanta Film Festival this year.
So this year was pretty cool and pretty special because this was the first time that I've ever just been outright granted access to the entire Atlanta Film Festival. And that's just because of the fact that they accepted my press application this year. So they were just like, go ahead and watch and review whatever the hell you want. But unfortunately, even though I did have access to the entire film festival, I am right now currently dealing with a very strict work schedule that's kind of hard to be flexible with. I was only able to catch 2 feature films and 4 short films. And the first film I'm going to be talking about is an international film called Silent Friend. This is a film that's directed by Ildiko and Enyedi, and I really had nothing to go off of in terms of expectation going into this movie because I've never seen any of her works. And this was basically going blind in based off of a recommendation from Bill Griff, so shout out yet again to Bill Griff. And now after seeing Silent Friend, my thoughts on this film have been kind of conflicted because it feels almost unfair to be criticizing a film like this because what I'm going to end up criticizing it for, it's obvious that the film didn't have any intention in doing any of those things. Like, this film had a very clear intention on what it wanted to do. I just unfortunately wasn't really able to get as much out of it as I'd hoped. And that's a huge bummer because on paper, it seems like Silent Friend would be so much of what I would love and appreciate out of a film. This is a movie that is about this scientist who's played by Tony Leung, by the way, absolute legend. And his character is basically studying the elasticity of a child's mind and a baby's mind. And he basically starts getting curious about how that relates to how plants and trees operate, how they behave and react to the outside world as well. And, again, like, there's this conceptual drawing of conclusions that is basically referring to the oneness and connectivity between all living things, including plants, that, are a lot more conscious than what we assume and what they appear to be. And again, like, on paper, it sounds like it would be awesome. But I just think stylistically, this film didn't resonate quite much with me, unfortunately, because what this film decides to do is jump through 3 different timelines. We have the oldest timeline that's presented in black and white, and it's basically about, the first female college student who is trying to survive and prove herself through this misogynist system. And in the middle timeline, we have a story that takes place in the 70s that's between a boy and a girl, and they both kind of have this intimate connection with each other, but it's really subtle, and their connection was built on a discussion about plant life. And then the present timeline, or the future, however you want to describe it, is the one with Tony Leung, and he's the one that's performing this study between the relationships of human brains and trees. And the movie kind of jumps back and forth in between stories, sometimes in a really smooth way that feels like really well thought out, and at some points kind of erratic. And my main issue with the way the filmmaker approached this is that there's really no effort at all to tie any of these things in a compelling way. I mean, sure, there's similarities, like, yes, they each kind of revolve around a character dealing with loneliness. They evolve around characters that are learning something about plants and trees. They all take place in the same exact college area where this big monumental tree is at. But, like, other than that, we're kind of watching these really long and drawn-out personal stories of these people that never really leads to anything conclusive, never really leads to anything that's all that compelling. It all just fizzles and ends by the end of it with nothing really there to read into or really discuss. And considering the fact that the film was 2 hours and 20 minutes long, it just feels like if you're going to make me sit that long and watch a film that is moving at a snail's pace, at least go forth and give the effort of giving me something that feels like I'm being rewarded for the time that I've waited. And granted, it does give you some sequences through the sound design, through the visuals, and again, yes, like through the pace of this movie. It moves slow, but there are some slow-moving sequences that are really absorbing and work really well. But there's just like it's just not enough. Like there's and even those sequences aren't necessarily directly tying to anything narratively what's going on. But it's weird because I do at the end of the day value my experience with this film. And I think that in a lot of ways it is unique in its approach, and it is bold, to approach a film in this way, especially as long as it is. But at the end of the day, I just feel like I felt more underwhelmed than I did feeling like this was like a rewarding experience. And I don't necessarily know how many people will end up watching this movie by the end of its run, but I think if a decent amount of people do watch it, like I think it's going to be a polarizing reaction. I think it's going to be like you either love it or hate it type thing. But with all that being said, I'll go ahead and give my rating. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and give Silent Friend a soft 6 out of 10. I know a soft 6 seems kind of high in the way that I've kind of talked about it. This film in pockets and in moments have some really compelling stuff to say, but like overall, there's not enough. Like this film could have been a whole lot more compelling and impactful if there was just more of an intention to connect things together appropriately. All right, so moving on to the next feature film that I saw at the Atlanta Film Festival. This is actually from a Georgia filmmaker, and it's a film called Frogtown. This is directed by Costa Kiralis. I have no idea how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, dude. Yeah, this was a film that I watched completely just because it sounded interesting and off a whim. He had emailed me, along with a lot of other filmmakers that emailed me to, try and cover his film and talk about it. And out of all the people that emailed me, honestly, Frogtown just really stood out to me. It just sounded unique and it sounded interesting. So I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll watch it. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with Frogtown. This movie was my cup of tea in a lot of ways. I think at first it took a little bit of warming up to in the beginning, I think. And what this film's about is actually pretty simple. It's basically just about this older woman that lives in Mariana County, Florida. And she is fully convinced that there is this entity, the supernatural entity called the Frog King that lives in a swamp near her house. And it's like an experience that she had when she was like a little girl, and she is living and dying by that fact. And she's also trying to plan this big parade, this big community parade, that honors this Frog King belief of hers. And I think it's the style and the presentation that really makes this film stand out even more, because honestly, like a good chunk of this film, I would say like most of this movie is actual documentary shit. Like a lot of the interactions that we see between people, a lot of the footage that we see, like most of it is really just capturing this town and, just capturing the culture and capturing the behaviors and just capturing a lot of genuine, authentic, slice of life type of footage. And then you have the fictional narrative stuff that, again, like as I already mentioned, follows this whole Frog King situation. But even that stuff is shot as if it's a documentary as well. So I think like overall it does work quite well. And I think that even the stuff that, again, is trying to trick the audience to believe that, this is authentic and real, even the stuff that is fictional and part of just a storyline, I think the fact that Costa was able to capture so much authenticity like around it, that even those moments eventually like was easy to warm up to and like made me feel genuinely invested in. But like conceptually and thematically, like I'm super in love with it, because what this film does, and I'm not sure like if this is a lot of people's reads into it, but I feel like the connection that the filmmaker is drawing here between her belief in the Frog King and other people's belief in Christianity and God and other religious and other supernatural beliefs, there's this odd like analytical dissection going on there, to where like it never like blatantly tells the audience like this is the connection. And I think it does this not necessarily to critique religion per se, but I think he does this to kind of just put a magnifying glass on the human psyche that is kind of examining our irrational yearn to feel special and, to feel like we're connected to something greater than us. And honestly, more so than not, I feel like it's actually celebrating this idea of, bringing the adult mind back to that whimsical and imaginative childlike mind, that we all, even as adults, consider to be like the peak human experience. When you're that young and innocent and, believe the world is full of these magical things. And there's this one truly amazing and impactful scene that we get at the Frog King parade in the third act of this film that I feel like really demonstrates that idea. It's just a really wonderful and emotionally magical scene that I get. Like, again, I think it really demonstrates this odd humanity that we all share. To really want to hold on, to these really whimsical ideas. But yeah, I really enjoyed Frogtown. Again, as I already said, it kind of took a little bit to warm up to it, and I don't think it's like a perfect movie or anything. But I think Costa was able to accomplish a lot with this film, and I personally got a lot out of it. So yeah, with that, I'll go ahead and give it a rating. I'm going to go ahead and give Frogtown a soft 8 out of 10. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and quickly review 4 short films that I saw at the film festival. And I'm not going to give these any ratings or anything. I'm just going to briefly give you my thoughts on it, because obviously the short films are, at least none of the ones that I watched were very long. But the first one I'm talking about is an experimental short called Materia, which was written and directed by Alisi Telengut. I have no idea if I fucking said that right. But this one's really simple, and it's really just hundreds of microscopically close-up images of minerals and rocks and plants and the soil and a lot of the geological elements of the earth. And it lasts for 6 minutes long, and honestly, like, it kind of flew by. Like, it's all it is. It's really not, there's some music, in the background, but it's really simple. I feel like it's just trying to visually laser beam into people's heads this idea of how similar everything actually is, and just like the connectedness of everything on Earth. And again, like, this, I feel like there's nothing really that much to it, but it does do its job quite well, and it is minimal, so that's kind of a negative about it, but it's a fun little experience, and it doesn't cost you much time. So if you want to see hundreds of close-up geological images shouting at you at a rapid-fire speed, this is a film for you, and honestly, I kind of dug it. Alright, so this next one is called Operation Wandering Soul, Ghost Tape number 10, which is written and directed by Ryan Betschart. And I gotta say, this is one that I didn't really connect with. I remember it being also around like 7 or 8 minutes long, maybe even longer, and it's just too minimal. I understand, like, it's low budget and things like that, but it just doesn't really offer enough, even for the short runtime that it is. We get like a few actual ghostly images that, it's like a vibe, but I don't even really know what this film was fully supposed to be about. It's like a paranormal story of like a war vet taking revenge or something like that. But I don't know. It's there's just not a lot here. I think in terms of atmosphere, it does a decent job. But by the end of it, like, I don't know. I just felt kind of empty. I think he's got an interesting style, and like in terms of this ominous atmosphere, like, he's good at that. Just give me a little more to really latch on to besides what you gave me. Alright, so the next short is called What Are Grandchildren Made Of, which is written and directed by Lindsey Susor. So this is one that I enjoyed. This is one that I'm not like in love with it or anything, but it's a fun, quirky, like, pretty bold, dark comedy type thing. Like, this is a film that it has fun with killing children, which is, again, like, that's, I think, why I like it, because it's pretty audacious and is not afraid to go into that territory. I liked the darkly humorous approach to it. I think for the most part it works well, because basically, like, conceptually what this movie is these grandparents soon learn that when their grandchild dies, a new one just will respond in their kitchen every single time. So basically what they do with that is they create this, like, organ harvesting operation because they don't value the life of their granddaughter, because you could just get a new one every time. And that's good. I think, like, conceptually it's fun. It just doesn't, like, it doesn't really do anything above and beyond. Like, it doesn't really go beneath the surface on anything. But overall, like, even though I enjoyed it, I think it's fun, it is, like, a little bit hollow. Maybe if it incorporated more comedy and had more of an identity, I would have enjoyed it more. Like, since it isn't really going for anything sincere and is meant to be comedic, like, I feel like it should up the ante and give us a little bit more comedic writing here and there. But overall, it is a good movie, though, and I do think it's worth your time. If you ever find this in the film festival circuit or see it anywhere online, I think it's worth a watch. Alright, so the last short film I'm talking about is a stop-motion animation short which is called A Flower Among the Fall, which is written and directed by Mikael Trench. One of his films screened alongside mine last year at the Atlanta Locals Only Film Festival, and I really dug what he did there. Even though I liked his previous film, this is like a huge step up, just in terms of presentation and concept. Like, he's really, with this movie, you could tell that he's growing and really putting a lot of effort into amplifying his skills and talents. Because this film, I thought, just through and through, was just so good. Now, again, like, of course you have to appreciate somebody who is still, you know, putting their all into the art of stop motion filmmaking. Like, that alone is an admirable skill. But, like, beyond that, like, the use of colors and lighting and just like the atmosphere and the use of score, like, it really felt like this genuinely melancholic experience that in one way feels really cozy. But maybe that's just unbiased because I love autumn and I love Halloween time. It's pretty incredible with some of the sequences that he was able to put together in this movie. Like, some of them are quite elaborate, and you could tell that he really went for it. And yeah, like, you feel like genuine emotion out of it. Like, there's a genuine atmosphere and this real sense of emotion that is drenched throughout this film, and you especially feel that with the ending. This is just like a really effective stop motion animation. It's really, really good. I look forward to see other stuff from him. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. I think it's all I got. Those are all the films that I checked out. I really wish I could have saw more. You know, but just in my current situation, that's all I was able to check out. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about all these films, please like this and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more from related content.